Hello my friends, welcome back to This Week in Social Media. We share some tips and tricks on how your videos can do better on TV. We also share what we found out in a brand new interview from a lady who took part in the Beast game. We share an update on the teen social media ban that took place in Australia a handful of weeks ago, as well as sharing some updates on the primary metric that Meta is now using across its platforms, as well as talking a little bit about Meta scrambling to delete a handful of AI generated accounts after some backlash that took place specifically. Back in November, it was reported that there was some new data that came out specifically regarding YouTube was climbing the ranks in regards to a percentage of streaming platforms. We had previously also reported that YouTube is now 10% or more in regards to actually being streamed, or 10% of streams on TV. So this is of course an opportunity to get your content in front of a new set of audiences, and it's something which you should consider as a marketer and as a content creator. And quote, earlier this year, YouTube reported that its users now watch more than 1 billion hours of YouTube content on their television sets every day, whilst views on YouTube Shorts on connected TVs grew by more than 100% over year on year. Now, of course, the Shorts platform is designed for phones to be infinitely scrolling, but it does seem as if some people are binge watching YouTube more so on connected smart TVs and etc. When it comes to the content they're willing to consume. And of course, you wouldn't want to see larger content on a larger screen with potentially better sound in that respect. So YouTube did share some more tips to help your content stand out on the YouTube TV app. Of course, it goes without saying you should be using your analytical data and checking into your analytics to see what percentage or what demographics or what watch time, etc. you're getting on your views or on your videos, to highlight or showcase specifically what you're doing. So you can use that data to then inform how you create content. Uploading in 4K ensures your content looks the absolute best it possibly can. Good lighting during filming and consistent color grading whilst editing can help create a polished professional look to keep your viewers engaged. Considerations for thumbnails specifically is another one that you should potentially look at when it comes to YouTube content on television. Quote, YouTube says that thumbnails are supersized on TV screens, so that it is important to ensure that they are high quality, high resolution, and they have maximized impact. Do keep in mind when adding text as well, that text may get blown out, so try to use vector text whenever possible so you don't see pixelation, was another point that I thought of whilst writing this. Episodic content works really, really well. If you really want to hook your TV audience, try building your channel around a familiar framework, recurring themes or beloved characters. This of course comes from the world of traditional telly, where we have episodic dramas, etc., where we can go from episode to episode rather than necessarily or following a similar format, so the audience can get familiar with that format and will learn to then enjoy and come to love that content specifically. Of course, optimizing your channel page, but this is mostly around the banner that is shown on channel pages. We'll also be talking a little bit later about some YouTube updates regarding channel pages to make it cleaner on televisions as well. But quote, choosing a clean design that's easy to see from far and upload a high resolution image, ideally for 2560 by 1440 pixels at 6 megabits max will help increase the quality of what you are going to be uploading and how you're going to be doing it. More tips can be found in the source notes down below as always, and I'll leave some more resources down there for you as well. But what do you think? Have you been watching telly or TV on YouTube on TV more. I would love to hear if you are currently watching on a TV as well, because it'd be good to know where that, where my audience or where the viewers that kindly do watch are watching from. So thank you ever so much, and we'll be moving on to the next bit. But do let me know if you're watching on telly down below, and have you been watching YouTube on your TV sets? We also saw the launch of MrBeast Games this week with another podcast interview from Rosanna with Mrs. Rose. Now, within this interview, we meet a lady who took part in the games. Also, Rosanna claimed that she had a traumatic brain injury from taking part in the games. Rosanna points out that MrBeast does claim that he's dropping a lot of behind the scenes on the show when the show is released, and it was released, and I've seen quite a lot of the behind the scenes personally. I've watched episode 0 of it and a handful of the behind the scenes episodes that have come out from the games, and my personal view, as I've already reported a few shows ago, is that it's very likely that MrBeast and Amazon are probably going to okay and not okay footage, right? Because they don't want any more fire to be added to the scandal that's currently happening in regards to allegedly the concerns or the misconduct or the alleged organizational concerns that happened on the set of episode 0, the MrBeast Games version, and it was slowly but steadily, and that's been confirmed in some of the BTS that I've watched, and I'll leave links down below for those who are interested. But it did sound and did feel like there was it was becoming less and less YouTuber as the Amazon team took over in that respect as well, because obviously this is an Amazon Prime show, so it was moving and sliding more towards television as they moved into episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, etc. in that respect. As it seems that it's been almost big YouTubers who've created good PR or good marketing to come out and ask yourself if you see any footage, did something go wrong, and would they allow that to be in the final edit, or would they cut that out specifically? No, right? And again, this is just my view. However, personally, it's something I would keep in mind for those who maybe have not seen it. I will leave links down below. However, as I don't feel I can add more, I won't be specifically reacting or talking to or sharing specific react content related to MrBeast Games specifically. It's a nicely done production. Obviously, there's concerns with it that we've already discussed. In this episode specifically, I wanted to focus on what we learned from Rosanna's podcast interview with Miss Rose. So that's what we're going to be focusing on for the rest of this story. At the start of the interview, we hear some of the reasons behind why the interviewee, Miss Rose, joined the games in the first place. She claimed that she used to idolize or work, and she had a background in the psychological understanding of game theory and how it works, right? So this suggested that she would be someone who had understood game theory and wanted to come on the show. She also claimed that she was one of the chosen 30 to 40 people who were mic'd up at all times as by story producers, something that I personally found very interesting when watching the games from behind the scenes point of view, was that the number of story producers helped the editors already know the best bits as it was live taking place. So their job was to write down noted live time code. So those who don't know, time code is a way of syncing in MrBeast's case, hundreds of cameras onto the same number. So, for 1 minute, 1 second, for example, you can jam every single camera so that it's all synced up, and then the same moment can happen in all of the footage at the same time. But also what was happening is the story producers would write and make notes on those specific time codes to say, well, this thing happened, we watched it live, and we think it's a good thing that could make the cut, because it's one of those things where you have to trim a lot down, because you're only going to have, say, a 10, maybe mostly 15-minute video. How are you going to go about doing that unless you're willing to cut 95% of the footage that was there, considering they're also running nearly 100 cameras as well? So she did explain in her own experience a little bit about how the communication efforts were very poor in regards to getting back to emails, to the point where she had to basically say fuck it and ended up driving to Los Angeles. That was only a 6-hour drive. By the morning, around 9 a.m, she claims she did eventually find out to the morning of her leaving for MrBeast Games filming, she did know what hotel she was in and she did know what plane she was in, but of course she then ended up having to drive because of the lack of communication from the MrBeast team. Miss Rose also claimed at this point in the interview that she drove herself home after nearly 6 hours with a concussion because she had believed that she had been kicked. She claimed that while she was driving back that she felt sleepy and she was struggling to keep her eyes open. Miss Rose also claimed that she understood that the challenge would likely to be mental and physical, and that she would likely be in the bottom few percent when it came to physical due to her age and the others taking part in the games. However, she did believe within herself that she could be better at the mental games and then work out what was going on and what the best play would be. Miss Rose also talked about how she got into the first game, and it was pulling in, if those who haven't seen it, it was put to pull a group. So each group was 100 people or so, if I recall correctly, and that was to pull a big rock above a Pacific line. And she talked about the fact that there was a unfair, quote-unquote, talk of the red team losing, mostly because there was more women in the red team, so they were potentially going to be less physically strong, and this was a physical game because they had to, as I say, raise that boulder high into the sky and get it to a certain line. They also talked about the fact that MrBeast did say no pushing or kicking, and clearly in the world where MrBeast didn't want anyone to get hurt, and it came to who touched the case when we're talking about now the second game specifically. And it was one of those situations where because he could see, he was on a pedestal and there was lots of people watching from the top of the stadium looking down, there was a lot of conversation within this podcast that the Miss Rose couldn't specifically see all of the details of the actual where the briefcases were laid out, because she was only seeing it from her perspective down on the ground, when if she would have seen it from above, she would have seen that she could have been cut off in where she ran. But we'll cover this a little bit later. I just wanted to highlight some interesting or potentially reasoning. Not really sure why Rosanna did this or why Rosanna's editor did this, but there was some interesting cut marks in regards to how heavily it was cut in this part of the podcast. So this is normally done to cut out ums and ahs. This is normally done potentially to remove slight context or slight sentences. So this is something to keep in mind. If you do want to view this in the podcast itself, it's around 17:40 overall, and I'll share what was said, followed by where I saw the cuts as well. Quote, in terms of my injuries, cut, what I didn't expect is in the grid there was, and there would have been especially cut to be cross-traffic cut. This is a very important point, cut. I wasn't able to view the game before my round, cut. So, cut. When people watch it on YouTube, there is going to be camera views and overhead cameras. So again, as I mentioned previously before reading the quote, a lot of this could be, actually a lot more was said that doesn't potentially align with Rosanna's agenda or opinion, or showcasing what specifically she wants to showcase or highlight, which is that MrBeast is a horrible individual, that obviously there was issues and concerns and he shouldn't be held, he's not, there's nothing that he hasn't, there's stuff that he's obviously done wrong, etc. But I think it's important to also call out and also say and also highlight when Rosanna has, or Rosanna's editors, I imagine under Rosanna's guidance, has made, in my opinion, potentially too many cuts, and how that could be questioned when it comes to editing the podcast, etc. Because the question would be, what's being cut out, right? So I think for me, if they wanted to have a story that's more believable and a story that's more understanding, then surely having less cuts, even if there was ums and ahs, which they've done previously in the podcast that I'll leave linked down below, surely that would be better for them, because that's going to be less likely to put you in a position where you can then be called out for these kind of cuts specifically as well. The same is true of the following statements at 1923. Now, why I'm making this point, you may ask, as someone who does edit podcast style content for clients, as recreating words and removing ums and ahs and other filler words for me does question what are they trying to cut out. The key point of this podcast, and it's a key point in this podcast because the whole point of this podcast is talking about how she was injured and how it potentially had a knock-on effect to the rest of her life. So it is a red flag for me by the fact that they're cutting so much. With this partly being heavily cut down story, Miss Rose also explained that she thinks that she was the female contestant that was tackled and knocked down by a male player within the same game who ran down the center and then cut in. As I was alluding to earlier, she claimed that she couldn't see the fact that it was a grid pattern and the fact that there was big gaps in the middle where a male contestant could run down and then cut in to get the briefcase. The goal of this specific game is some were eliminated, some were safe, and you had to touch a briefcase to keep it, and then you were in a position where you were either eliminated or safe in that respect as well. Miss Rose also claimed that below from her right, and then she suddenly realised that a very strong survival instinct. Luckily, I scrambled up and she was able to get on her feet, but she was certain it was a guy who went into her. She ended up getting a case through the as the chaos was unleashed. But what she did say, she seemed or questioned whether it would be one that was red, which would I'd say or claim or showcase that she was going to be unfortunately removed from the game. And for whomever, as she said, well, she looked fine, Rosanna claimed it's likely to do with the level of adrenaline or etc. While she was, quote, dazed and confused. She also claimed that she told Carl, hey, I just got knocked down, check the tapes. I was so much in the game that I said, if I got knocked down and I touched the case before the guy who did it, surely he should be eliminated. Instead of me. She also claimed that she got kicked in the head, and she claimed that she was the female in the story, which we hear that was being told in between, and that was kind of rumoured, I guess you could say. When Miss Rose was asked for an exit interview, she and was asked if she would come back to a MrBeast production, she said yes, of course. But Rosanna claimed that she would only say this as she was, quote, dazed and confused and had concussion, end quote. Miss Rose also added, I didn't appreciate what had happened to me, and it was really took weeks on the couch hearing the stories coming off Rosanna's platform from the New York Times and some other stories from a Dog Pack's video, like we shared in the last episode, that were Dog Pack's largely misrepresenting or largely misinforming a lot of the claims that he made. It may have come from a place of goodwill, but from the coverage we've already discussed in the previous episode that I'll leave down below, it sounded a lot more like it was actually just a begruntled employee who was pissed off at MrBeast specifically. And, you know, it's quite difficult, and I think that by obviously the potentially anyway, Miss Rose didn't realise that Dogpat had misrepresented. So personally, I think she would have a stronger case if she didn't use Rosanna's platform there, but also mention Dogpack as well, because I think for me, I think if you just mention, you know, the New York Times and there's some of the stories as well that have come out from quote unquote official outlets, then it will make sure that people potentially consider it more credible than, you know, Rosanna, who clearly has built an agenda. And the counter argument that has been said from other interviewees that we've covered on the show as well is that she's clout following. The same with Dogpat, and it was quite interesting to see that Dogpat hasn't made an appearance on Rosanna's channel from what I can see. since the Soggy Cereal video, debunking a lot of what Dog Pat, and obviously that podcast that we talked about with MrBeast a couple of weeks ago as well. Moving back to Miss Rose's claims, however, Miss Rose did wish that to impact some change, and at least for me and for her to do it, she felt it was right. Rosanna claimed that she has also been on TV style shows and claims that it's most likely to say nice things on the exit interview because you haven't had time to process what's happened because moving so fast and it's in the excitement and the wild chaos. Rosanna did make the point that MrBeast claimed that they made a big point of looking and reviewing footage when it came to disagreements and fairness within the game show that you can see within a lot of these BTS videos that I'll leave a link down below. But the point, I guess you could say, that Rosanna wanted to do was showcase and see if she could review all of the footage to see and highlight potentially some of the issues that took place, and to see whether Miss Rose specifically had actually been hurt in the way she claims, and you know that this had happened, and she wanted to see and wanted to investigate all of the raw footage. Now, it is a lot of footage that would cost a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy, but she claimed she wanted to do it. So Miss Rose wanted to also claim by speaking out that there was potential reduced chances of further injuries, but the risk, of course, for legal ramifications, and frankly, any lawyer worth their salt would not recommend doing an interview, or wouldn't say come and do an interview like she was doing specifically. Rosanna claimed that she has spoken to 200 people who took part in the MrBeast Games production, and nearly 50 of those people who had either previously worked or worked for MrBeast, and they, quote, they all said the same thing, that the set was specifically dangerous. Miss Rose also claimed that she did sign a liability waiver, and there could be a risk of death. Miss Rose claimed that due to the fact that she was small, 5'2", and she didn't see the whole game, that she wasn't 100% aware of the risk of getting crossed into that was created because of the MrBeast production assistants weren't allowing them to see the full game. As we've seen in the full edit, as I say, they didn't have access to those top camera view, so she didn't actually be able to see the fact that there was a cross pattern in the middle to allow a contestant to run up and then cut in. Miss Rose also claimed that she got hurt and concussion was early on the Saturday morning, and it wasn't until the Monday that she realised she had a goose egg on her head, on the back of her head, and as well as understanding the rest of her symptoms specifically, she then had to drive herself home, as we've already alluded to, so the 6-hour drive back home. By Monday, the headaches and the nausea began, and then I realised that I had a concussion and went for urgent care. Miss Rose also claimed that she had bruised ribs as well as bruising on her calves. Miss Rose then goes onto how long her recovery would likely be, a year, and why she was potentially doing this interview, as we've already referred to. She also claimed that she was at her peak when it came to just before the games, and there was a significant decline afterwards. She also said that it wasn't able to do the same work that she would be able to do from a cognitive ability point of view. So, quote, "We are as the poorest we've ever been in a very long time." She also claimed that she's going to be posting a 2-hour fact-filled, end quote, video that goes into all of the details on how and when the facts could be created, and if and when she needs brain surgery. She did talk about specifically the fact that she made that video as a potentially a legal representation of what had happened, so she could give that to a legal representative to potentially, and then of course the police, to potentially go after Jimmy. I haven't watched the video in full. If you would like me to, I may cover it in next week's show, or next time we do a show, so let me know in the comment section down below if there's demand for that. But near the end of this nearly 2-hour long conversation, Miss Rose's channel, where she goes into more details, I did actually find the video, but it took me to a unlisted video where the comments were turned off by Miss Rose, the comments below, and there was a statement that I'll put on screen now, specifically as well underneath that video. That's what we found out. Personally, I think it does say a lot that she's unlisted the video. Does she still stand by that video? I don't know, right? I will be talking potentially more about that video in detail, but I think that with some of the other things I've already discussed, I feel like there's a little bit more to this story, and I feel like maybe some stuff could have been wrongly represented as well. Obviously, if she has been knocked over or ran into by a male contestant, then of course that's not okay, and of course that needs to be looked into, and you know, arguably it's actually on MrBeast to ensure safety on a production set. However, we've already discussed the concerns or the issues when it comes to that production and how it went about in that respective as well. So I'd love to hear what you think about this interview, and of course leave links down below for those who are interested, but I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. As we also reported a few weeks ago, the Australian government has created a bill to ban the use of social media platforms for anyone under the age of 16, even though the bill itself, quote, had widespread criticism for potential bill and many questions have been raised, will actually deliver the intended benefits. The Australian government is pushing ahead with the proposed regulation on social media usage, which will see users aged under 16 banned from social media apps. As per the bill, the Online Safety Amendment (Social Media Minimum Age Bill of 24. The bill amends the Online Safety Act of 21. Online Safety Act will aim to apply a minimum age for social media use and placing responsibility on the social media platforms for safety of their users. Reported by the BBC, the ban, which will not take effect into at least 12 months' time, could see tech companies fined up to $1 million in Australian dollars. That's US of 3.2 million, or 25 million in pounds if they don't comply. Even though this still has big questions on how the app would go about policing it or ensuring that young people don't get around it using fake date of births, VPNs, etc. However, the Australian officials feel that moving forward with the bill is still a good idea to help children's safety overall. Quote, the Australian government is yet to provide a strong framework as how the apps can be measured and through the violations of these laws. Right now, it's like every app will be judged based on their own procedures, which will mean that there's specifically different variables on enforcement. Meta has argued that the age restriction should be done at an app store level, as it would ensure that all apps are held to the same specific consistent standards. At this stage, the bill will be covering Reddit, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, and the with messaging apps like WhatsApp and Messenger not taking part of the current proposal. Neither will YouTube, which will see potential problematic teams moving to these apps, like new platforms like Threads, Blue Sky, also are currently not listed on the scope and have potential holes related to restrictions on social media use. A point that has been raised in regards to banning a percentage of these apps for teen use is you are going to pull them away from you're not going to pull them away from messaging apps and video sharing websites such as YouTube. The following question is, how far would it likely to go? Are we planning to fully cover our children or one's children in bubble wrap? Or surely a better approach to help this situation would be, or help the safety of children, would actually just be to educate them on the risks and the concerns regarding social media use as a whole. This view is echoed by the BBC and Social Media Today, which are used for this the quotes in this article, or these articles related to the show that I'll link down below. The Prime Minister says that the legislation is needed to protect young people from the harms, quote, of social media, and some parent groups have echoed this, quote from the BBC. The government says it will rely on some age verification technology to impose these regulations. The option will be tested in the coming months, and the social media platforms will add processes themselves. However, digital researchers have warned there is no guarantee of using technology to potentially block this. However, there has been conversation related to what relies on biometrics or identity will work. Critically, there is obviously running into a privacy issue here as well. Last year, the French also introduced regulation to block social media access to children under the age of 15 without parental consent. For those doing research on this behalf, half of the users have avoided this ban by using a VPN. As reported within the Social Media Today blog that I'm using as part of the report for this story, quote, overall the team ban will be ill-advised, poorly structured, and has problems that may not even be a problem that exists, but the government is keen to show that parents that by taking action so much so that it's only 24-hour windows to submit appeals, which means that it will become law very soon, but the Australian government is keen to show world-leading leadership in this case and really is likely to highlight the opportunity to put policymakers to potentially largely out of touch with the current modern online landscape. If a 16-year-old is using a social app, a 15-year-old will find a way to do the same, and a 14-year-old, and so on, as they look to keep with the latest the high school their peers, so they're looking to basically hang out on the same platforms. So this is basically a principle of making sense of protecting teens from online harm, banning them or shielding them, which is unlikely to be the answer in the long term. Many leaders have already said that, so let's see how this goes, and many people are looking, other countries are looking at this or around this to see how it goes, one of which being Norway, and others are likely to look into should their kids be on social media or should they start regulating against those. What do you think? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this is, should we go the education route? Should we go the regulation route specifically? Who knows? We will have to wait and we'll have to see how this plays out in Australia and see whether it actually does the job that the Australian government believes it's going to do. We also heard a handful of updates from YouTube in their This Week series. Now, these week series is 3 episodes and it's going to be taken from last year. The first update that we had was YouTube has finished rolling out the 3-minute short updates to all creators at this point. So if you have seen that and you don't wish a 3-minute video to be as short, just make sure to upload it in a 16:9 format. There's also been some new sharing updates related to custom sharing options on YouTube content on other platforms, as well as the option to add images to community quiz posts. This update will come to first Android users, will of course be viewable on OS, and then they're planning to roll it out to iOS as well. With a new AI prompt also allowing users to create images and text posts within the YouTube app. So this is the latest in the AI wave, you could say, for YouTube specifically, with also YouTube launching a Brand Connect button for all those within the YouTube Partner Program. The goal claim is to create a place for people or YouTubers specifically looking for brand deals and add more tools for their media toolkit to help creators understand what potentially advertisers or your Coca-Colas of the world are looking for and pitch more ideas to those brands. And I imagine YouTube will take a percentage of that sale as they facilitated the connection happening between those brands specifically. With also the launch of Brand Connect, which is a new testing program where Brand Connect open calls where advertisers can request custom ad content created by YouTubers, and then the YouTubers are obviously able to put themselves forward for those ad spots or those ad reads or be part of that advertising creative and of course be compensated accordingly. It also seems that YouTube is going after AI created content by also launching a captured in camera part of every single YouTube video to be baked into the media data, but also addable in the description in the coming weeks as well. This is obviously a crackdown for those who are potentially using AI to create content. Something we'll be covering in the next week's show is how deepfakes are potentially or going to be slightly more regulated as we move into 2025. They've also shared that auto dubbing is now being rounded out for the rest of the platform for those who are eligible, of course. So this auto translates and auto dubs audio onto. So I'm speaking English today, but it will expand the viewership pool because it will auto translate and dub over the video on YouTube side to be in different languages, with the simplifications of channel pages by starting out when a new channel is started, having no tabs specifically, and showing and adding them as YouTube creators create different kinds of content, right? So as someone creates a long form a 16:9 video, it will add videos. Then as they create shorts, it will add shorts. As they do lives, it will create lives, etc. YouTube has also said that they are adding some more features related to the public-facing subscriber list on channel pages as well, and showcasing more details on the visibility status of videos within a new tab being added to the top of the channel, and also simplifying the analytics and showing specifically data stories. So data story is basically helping a YouTube creator understand where their viewers have come from and how we go about potentially tweaking that content to be in a better place. So they're basically just showing and they're updating some of the data stories for the overarching videos. So when you publish a members only video, it will still be shown to your subscribers to show what they're potentially missing. But of course, it will also be distributed to your members. We also got some updates on how and when third-party right holders are allowed to train AI models on their content, and then some also updates on when, of course, you can't do that and when it's against terms of service. We also have a new experiment taking place, specifically at the time of writing this video, with a new experience talking about video settings after the fact and how they're configured, with the confirmation as well that we covered a couple of weeks ago, talking about the super chat goals is now being rolled out to all available users. So if you're part of the partner program and you do live streams and you are going to set super chat goals for your community, then you'll be hopefully getting that very, very soon. That's all for the YouTube update specifically in regards to from last year. Of course, there'll be a new one coming soon, rather later, that I'll cover next week. But what stood out to you? What features are you really looking forward to? Are you a paid creator who's really looking forward to that brand connect opportunity, or just the streamline on channel features is really good for you? I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. We also found out this week that Facebook is going to be changing their primary metric to views. We heard back in August that Instagram is going to be doing the same. So it just seems that Instagram and Facebook and Meta overall are just aligning these changes. As quote, Instagram wanted to move away from vanity content metrics like likes, plays, impressions, and accounts reached, as it's more informative to share the view count instead. So views are taking over as the main metric for both video and image content. As the platform is seeing more and more videos being posted, in a statement Meta made the following: creators will now have a single distribution metric on all of their content types to calculate the same way across Facebook and Instagram. So the new metric is called views and will tell you the number of times a reel or a video was played, or a number of times a photo or a text post was seen on a screen, to align with Instagram's recent update as well. They also added that views will also be replacing impressions. Views are calculated as the number of times that they appear on a person's screen, including repeated views. So for example, a person viewing a photo for 3 separate times in the same day will count as 3 views for that photo instead of 1 impression. This means that you may notice a views are specifically higher than previous impression counts. They are also planning to update and switching to watch time and average watch time metrics to be minutes viewed and average minutes viewed. Watch time in total amount of time that the reel or the video was played, including any time replaying the reel or video, captures how long the people watch down to the second, whether minutes viewed round the closest minute. So other metrics like reach, 3-second views, 1-second views, reactions, comments shared will be unchanged. This is clear that potentially Meta as a whole is looking and viewing what they're doing with a lot of their metrics. It seems like they're trying to simplify a lot of the metrics that we look at specifically as marketers to see whether our Meta posting, our Meta organic posting, or our Meta ads are working in the same way. And of course, we still have that breakdown if we are using paid ads. But do you think this is a good change? Is this more likely to simplify it and help you understand a bit more on what's working and what isn't? I would love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. In other Meta news, we heard that Meta scrambles to delete its own AI-generated accounts after backlash. This came to light when the VP for Meta generated AI told the Financial Times, quote, "There are bios and profile pictures and being able to generate and share content powered by AI on the platform that we're seeing all of the going." The comment section had a lot of outrage of the slop that it seemed to be more and more clear that Meta was moving away from the core goal or the core plan or the core want for the social media platform, focusing on a human-to-human connection. The conflict, there is confusion, a Meta spokesperson, Liz, told the CNN in an email. The recent Financial Times article was about a vision of an AI character existing on our platform over time and not announcing any new products. Any part of early experiments we did for AI characters. She also added there was a bug impacting block those AI characters, removing the fix. So there has been some controversy related to I know that a lot. I watched another video a while ago talking about this and saying, well, you know, Instagram is filled with AI specific ads or specific concerns or specific AI content. This is of course something that, as we're in the AI age, we're gonna have to learn to deal with. And do you believe, or do you agree with the confirmation or the understanding that Meta was just experimenting with the concept of AI profiles? And if there wasn't necessarily this backlash, would there have been a situation where we could have had more generative AI accounts on the platform? I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. That is going to wrap up today's video. I personally think that the Meta, they might be looking a little bit more at damage control when it came to the actual platform specifically, and what they were looking to do to hide the, I think they should stay true to the human-to-human connection that we alluded to. But thank you ever so much for watching today's show. If you did enjoy today's episode and would like to hear and see more like this, then I will leave some links down below where obviously we're going to be talking about the sources, but also some written articles that I've personally done as well that you may find interesting. And if you are new to the channel, why not subscribe? Thank you very much for coming back and joining me once again, and I'll see you very, very soon.